Hi. Hello. I hope you're doing well. Today is Christmas, and a year ago, I would have been in someone else's home with someone else, making memories with someone else's family. But as of August of this year, that is no longer happening to me. I recently got out of a 3-year relationship, and through all of that, I wanted to reflect and to share some of my experiences, and hopefully you would be able to gain some insight or wisdom based off of them. If you are able to, that's awesome, and that is my Christmas gift to you. But if you don't see it that way, here's my juicy gossip story Christmas gift for you, as a alternative to that. So, my ex, as I said before, was with her for 3 years. And I doubt this video is going to end up in her sphere or her friends' spheres or people that she knows, irrespective of that, right? I highly doubt that it will happen. But in the event that it so does happen to, the thing that I wish her the most is that she's happy and healthy, and that she's doing whatever she wants in her life. Leave it at that, nothing else. So for the 3 years that I was with her, she was my first for a lot of things. She was my first real relationship, and we had met in college in 2022. And she broke up with me in August of 2025. So very long time. And as I said before, it was my first real relationship. So I learned a lot. I had a lot of first experiences with her, and I am very grateful for them, appreciative, because it taught me a lot of things about myself and how I view my next relationship. So I kind of want to get into the history of it a little bit, and then I'll kind of move on to the reflections that I had. So we started dating in 2022, made it official in April, and we had ups and downs as any normal relationship would. And in my eyes, it was a pretty standard relationship. I had gotten her a promise ring 6 months in because I really saw myself being with her for the rest of my life, even through the hard times. We definitely had some difficult times, and even throughout all of that, it taught me how to stay through the hard times and work through it and compromise and to appreciate the other person. And I had planned to marry her 2 years out from now, in 2027. That was my plan. But now I'm not. So you can kind of tell how my mindset was kind of like where it was at the time and how heartbroken I was as a result of it. Because I really did feel that I found my person. But looking back on it now, there were a lot of things that weren't going to work out, and she was a little more mature in that to see that it wasn't going to work out, and she decided to walk away. I'll get into that a little bit later, but I will give her props for that. Now, the things that didn't work out in the relationship, there were a bunch of things. And this is my personal experience. This is not the full story from her side. This is my personal experience with it. So take it with a grain of salt. These are the things I've experienced. And, it's not the full side of the story. But there were times where I had lost my trust in her based off of the things that she did, and the actions that she made and decisions that she made. For one, it came a lot related to my health. And back when COVID was still very much a bigger issue than it is now, She didn't necessarily take care of me as much as I'd hoped, and it really stung me because I had done the exact opposite for her. So I was at work one day and I wasn't feeling well. I didn't know I had COVID at the time. And I asked her, I was like, hey, can you go and get me some medicine? I don't know if I'm going to be able to go get medicine after work. And she said to me, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm about to go out with my friends and we're going to go someplace. I am not going to go get you medicine. And to me, that was very odd. And I was like, you can basically just go to a real quick pharmacy. And at the time I was working on campus at our college, and I worked very close to where that student pharmacy was, and she could have just gone there, grabbed it 5 minutes, and then came back and given it to me. But no, she didn't do that. And that kind of in my head was like, that's really weird. And it hurt a little bit. Later on, when I did have COVID and I was recovering, she came to visit me one time and brought food for me and Gatorade. I remember it was like one time that she did that. And I had asked her if she could, day to day bring me these things because I didn't have anyone else to take care of me, right? I couldn't leave. I couldn't order anything. I didn't have DoorDash at the time, or like Uber Eats, or getting any type of groceries. It just wasn't feasible for me at the time because I lived in a gated community. It was very difficult for them to even get inside, for them to get me those groceries. But they weren't. But she even then she didn't really bring anything to me except for one time, and it didn't even last me a full week. At the time that I was quarantining myself in my room in my apartment. So it was really difficult for me because my mom she drove like an hour and a half every day to bring me food, making sure that I was, taken care of because she's my mom and I really appreciate that. But I thought at the time, being in that relationship, right, we had been together, I think at about almost a year at this point, or something like that. And that really stung me. It hurt because I took care of her when she had COVID. I put on as much PPE as I could. I went over. I took care of her, made sure that she was okay. I missed class to take her to the doctors at our, student health services center. And I made her food. She didn't ask me to do any of these things, right? But I made the effort to show that I was committed to her. And it didn't really turn out the way that I had hoped. I didn't get the same effort reciprocated. Another time was when I got my concussion at work. And I was doing some storage things, and I hit my head on a banister. It was one of those steel frame banisters, I think. Or it was a steel frame support. And I banged my head really, really hard, and I got a concussion. And I remember one day, I was staying at her apartment, and I asked her when she got back from work, and I was like, hey, can you take me to the ER or the urgent care? I can't remember which one it was, to go get a CT scan or something like that, or MRI scan, something for my head, because I was still feeling off about it. And then she got back from work. So she said yes, and then she got back from work, and then she said, no, I don't feel good. I'm too tired. I can't take you. So with a concussion, I drove myself to the urgent care to get a MRI or a CT scan. I think it's a CT scan. And that really was like, wow, what the actual fuck? Because I did a lot of these things for her. I was providing for her, and, I didn't get the same effort reciprocated back to me. And that was probably the first time where I was like, that's really messed up. And kind of selfish. And so after that, I started having qualms about the smaller things, and all those smaller arguments started to build up because I had this resentment. And I did voice it to her, and we tried to work things out. And I think that was just one of the things that hung over my head for the longest time. She did get better for it, of course, but it just hung over my head for so long. So I didn't do too much with it. And then the last big one was, it happened very recently. Last year during my birthday, she came over to surprise me for a gift. She cooked me a meal, which I was very grateful for, because she doesn't really cook all that often. In our relationship, I was the one that cooked more or bought us food, so I did more of that. And I asked her during my birthday, I was like, hey, do you want a gaming PC? Because one of the things that we used to do was that we would play games together, and she didn't really have a real system to play games on. So she was like, only if you want to. So on my birthday, I bought her all the parts to build a PC. And then Christmas time, and New Year's, I went over last year to build that computer for her so we could spend more time together. We played games, and the long distance between us both, because we had gone long distance, because she was in school and I had graduated and I had moved for work. The long distance took a big toll on our relationship. And it didn't really seem to me at the time that it was a big enough issue, but she had met someone online through a game, and they were talking more often, and I didn't want to be like that jealous boyfriend who was like, oh, why are you doing this? This is kind of weird. And I wanted to trust her and I gave her the benefit of the doubt. But she started to spend more and more time with this person. They started following each other on social media. They started sending each other music on Spotify, and they followed each other on Spotify. And I saw this and I was like, this is really weird. And I, brought it up to her, and she's like, no, just don't worry. He's just a friend. And, obviously you can tell where this is going. August, she broke up with me. And she gave me in my head, a bunch of BS excuses. And I told her at one point between the January and the August of this year, I was like, hey, I'm feeling really emotionally disconnected from you. I could have brought it up a better way, of course, but my communication style, I'm very blunt as a person. So it just, I said it that way. And she took a lot of dissatisfaction with that. Even though I was basically providing for I felt, at least for me, I was doing a lot for the relationship and making sure that she was always happy and healthy when she was with me, things like that, and making sure that she was having fun, and providing for her because she was in grad school and I had a job and I had the income. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So she broke up with me and gave me a bunch of BS excuses saying how we were incompatible, even though we both had the same values of where we wanted to go in our lives. So we both wanted to get married and have kids. And she said, we just weren't compatible in certain things. And I said that, it didn't make any sense. And it didn't. Because I believe that she compartmentalized a lot of those reasons of giving herself an excuse to walk away from the relationship, because she was no longer emotionally invested as I was, or committed to the relationship. And a month and a half after we broke up, come to find out that they started, the person that she met online, they were now doing long distance dating. And he's not even from the state that we live in. So the funny thing about this is that I found out a day after my birthday. So it was quite a crazy birthday present for me right after. So very, very interesting. It was a really bad time for me afterwards. I had gotten over it at that time, but it was very hurtful. And when she broke up with me, she wanted to still stay friends with me, and I stupidly said yes, and even made a promise to her that was like, hey, if we're still single by the time we're 30, let's get married. Because I thought at that time there was really good intentions behind there. But there weren't many good intentions there. I think that she was just trying to save herself from that guilt. And I am probably not going to uphold that promise because I don't want her in my life anymore. Especially with her burning the bridge like that. I don't want someone in my life who does something like that. So that's basically the history of my 3-year relationship. It's a normal relationship, but I got stung many times. I will say I wasn't perfect. I wasn't the perfect boyfriend either. I was human. I did make a lot of mistakes, and I tried to take accountability for them, and I tried my best to be better. Sometimes I fell short. Sometimes I did a lot better. But with any relationship, that's just how it is. You know, we are got to give ourselves enough grace to make sure that we are always trying to improve, and that the next time we encounter the same situation, we do better. And I always try my best to do that. But I think the relationship dynamic between both of us didn't allow me to fully do that, because I had a lot of stress held in my body, because it knew that in hindsight, now that I look at it, that this relationship wasn't it for me. And I ignored those signs, which is not something that I will continue to do anymore. So I'll use that as a little segue to get into some of the reflections that I have written down as a result of my journaling. So let's take a look. So reflecting on this relationship, and after taking the 4 months to heal, I've learned a lot about myself. And I'm very grateful that I was able to heal in a relatively shorter time frame. I think thanks to the skills that I have gained through years and years of working in therapy and working on myself. I don't think throughout the time that between the breakup and now, I haven't spent a day where I wasn't trying to take care of myself or do better. Sometimes we're just stuck on survival mode and, you know, things happen. But I really did make the effort and the commitment to myself to better understand myself. And I wrote it down in my journal. And it was something along the lines of, there is no disservice in understanding yourself, and to have others understand you, and for you to understand others. So don't do yourself the disservice of trying to run away from yourself and not understand it. So I took that to heart. I took that as a mantra, and I basically spent the last 4 months learning about myself and committing myself to understanding myself and being a lot better for the next person that comes in my life. But one of the things I didn't realize was that I'm actually okay with being single now. And the next person that I choose, I'm going to be choosing out of abundance and not out of a need to fulfill a gap in my whole of my heart where I feel lonely. I'm okay with being lonely now. I'm okay with being single. And that's not something I could have ever anticipated 4 months ago when I got broken up with, because for 3 years, I was building a life with this person. And that's not the reality anymore. So, but let's go on to some of those reflections. So one of the things that I learned was how to better communicate with others. And I think that's just the style of my communication and learning how to communicate with others. I'm a very blunt person. I am not easily able to read a room when it comes to social cues. You have to tell me directly about some things. And I speak very bluntly. So for one of those examples I said before, it's like, oh, I'm feeling emotionally disconnected from you. For some people, that's like, oh, wow, okay, what can I do better? But for some people, that's like, ouch, you are attacking me. And I believe my ex is one of those people where it's like, you need to kind of talk to them in a way it's like, hey, I've been feeling a little emotionally disconnected from you recently because we haven't spent enough time together. Can we set up some time so we can spend some time together and hang out and connect and be intimate? So talking like that is going to be a lot easier. For some people, the way that I speak is a lot better. But moving forward, that's one of the things I learned is how to communicate those things better, and just, asking for better clarification when I don't understand things. The next thing is a lot of forgiveness and repair, and learning how to forgive and repair after. One of the things that killed our relationship was the not being able to repair and forgive on my part, because it hurt too much for me, and I held on to that hurt a lot, and I couldn't forgive her or fully repair because I didn't know how to. I didn't want to at the time. And I will take accountability for that, because it is my job to move on from those things and move forward. But I also realized that the things that had kept happening were reoccurring things. So it was kind of more difficult for me to forgive, because the same thing kept happening over and over again. The next thing is definitely not sacrificing my values or my integrity. After speaking to my friends and my family, they did tell me that they saw a different person of me than when I was in the relationship. My very close friends, like people in my life that I trust so much, they realized that I was no longer the person that I was. I wasn't the person that they were happy to have around. They just knew that I was stressed, and I didn't really tell them too much about my relationship, but they could definitely tell based off of how I was saying things and things like that. And we did interact when she was around my friends with me. They basically saw like how she wanted to argue with me all the time, and also she seemed like a chip on her shoulder. And to me, like after the breakup, they said to me, I was like, yeah, Danny, you seem very drained. So there's that. So not sacrifice my values and integrity, because I compromised a lot of things that I shouldn't have. And now that I am healing from the breakup, I can now see that the next relationship I go into, I won't do that, because those things are too important for me, and I'm not going to sacrifice or compromise on those things. The next thing is accountability. I took accountability for a lot of things in the relationship, even for things that I shouldn't have. And she didn't really take accountability for a lot of her things that she did in our relationship. So that's one of the things that I learned, is that accountability is something that's very important to me, and that's not something that I'm willing to compromise or sacrifice more. So it really kind of goes with my previous point. The last thing is the connection, emotional commitment. One of the things that she said to me when we broke up, and that still kind of irks me or it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, is she said that if we're meant to be because of fate, then we're meant to be. But I think that's a load of bullshit, because if you are leaving it up to fate and you aren't taking accountability of how you're presenting yourself in the relationship, then I think that is that's terrible, right? What are you even in a relationship for? Because to me, I'm in a relationship to find a partner, to live life with someone that I trust as my best friend, and we're going to go through good and bad times. But knowing that they are the person that I chose to walk through life with, knowing that we will fully support each other and committed to each other, that's what I was looking for. And if that was the case of her walking away from the relationship because she was no longer finding those things, or that she had different reasons or things like that, right? That's okay. I wish she had told me straight up that it was like, oh yeah, I lost feelings for you because this is not what I want out of a relationship anymore. I would have taken that much more positively, instead of being like, oh, I don't think we're incompatible. If fate is to have us fated, then we'll be fated to be together. Like that takes away all the work that you yourself as a person need to hold yourself accountable to and be responsible for, right? Because if I have a behavior and I'm like, I don't change it, and the relationship doesn't work out, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, if fate is supposed to have us be together, then we'll be together, right? That you don't allow yourself to hold yourself accountable to change yourself and be better, right? So emotional commitment and that connection is really important to me now, and I want to, find someone who has the same values as that. Because I really do believe that if you are both on the same page and you both have the same values and you both want it to work, it can work. But if someone is no longer committed, then you just have to own it and say, I am no longer committed. I lost feelings and I want to walk away. And that is so much more mature and a lot better in terms of communication than what I received. So I hope that this half an hour of rambling brings you some type of understanding of how, even though you can get burned like this, especially with someone that you thought that you were going to marry, that you can bounce back and that things will be okay. After reflecting on these things, right, I find myself still wanting to go out and meet people, and being emotionally available and wanting to connect with others and seeing what life has to bring to me with these awesome people that I have yet to meet. And I am committed to wanting to live a life that has full abundance for me. That'll be something I'll talk about later in a different video. These are just my reflections, but that's a whole different topic we'll get into. So I hope you have a good Christmas. I know this is a little bit long. This is a lot longer than I anticipated. So Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a really good New Year. 2026, everyone will make it their own way. 100% believe that. If you're watching this video, you are getting blessed to have a really good 2026. And I give you my good energy. But yeah, hope you enjoyed listening to my little story, and hope you can gather as many thoughts or insights or wisdoms as you can from this. I'm going to leave you off with this last thing. Even though you have been hurt, you can bounce back and things do get better. I promise you. Because I felt everything that I wanted to run away from, and I allowed myself to feel every emotion and cry and be sad and be angry and be depressed and all those things. It doesn't make me less of a person, right? These are all human things. And you should not deny yourself from being a human. Once you've done that, and you give yourself that grace and respect that you deserve from yourself to yourself, you will see how awesome life is and how many opportunities you have to go out and live your life that you want. I 100% believe that. Merry Christmas. Take care of yourselves, and I hope to talk to you soon.